Welcome, everybody. John Zager, johnzager.com. How is everyone today? It's a beautiful day here on the eastern slope. I believe we're supposed to get close to 70. It's very nice outside right now. Sunny and pretty clear, no wind, and you don't really need a coat. Maybe just a hoodie or something like that. And everything's fine. I just got back from the grocery store. Kind of thought I'd report on that just for a short, but what we're talking about today is solitude, is being able to be okay with isolating yourself, which is what, the government's kind of suggesting for 15 days or something like that, to kind of not be in public, stay at home. I think I saw an article this morning about San Francisco. There's 7 million people in that region that are being asked to stay home. There's a word for that. I don't know what it is, but they're needing to stay at home and reduce the risk of spreading or picking up the virus. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and why that occurs, why people have different reactions to that. There's some people that seem to get bitter and angry and resentful, and there's other people that are appreciative, that there's educated, intelligent people looking out for their well-being. So I don't know. We're going to kind of talk about that from both the perspective of psychology and neuroscience. So that's kind of what I was thinking about, just for a short, not for a long time. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, and I think it's pertinent that we need to be talking about this topic periodically for the next while. I don't know what that is, a few weeks periodically or a few months periodically. We need to touch on it. There's some other things, other issues that are attached to it that are confusing to people. For instance, this morning, as I was reading, I noticed that Walmart is closing a lot. I don't remember the number. Just an awful lot of stores in the United States. I don't know what that's about. And it went on to say that Walmart is closing, I think I have this number correct, 164 stores outside of the United States, through other countries. So pretty substantial closing of Walmarts, and don't know what that's about. I mean, there's always what conspiracy theorists that bring up topics of, it's the government, early stages of martial law or some crazy thing like that. I heard a couple people talking about that this morning, at the grocery store. And the amount of people that are being told, what they can and can't do. I mean, the other thing that came up was most all countries now have closed off their borders. That was the other thing that came up. And what does that mean? What's that all about? I mean, I understand the importance of that, from a purely scientific standpoint. From a medical standpoint, it makes perfectly good sense. You probably need to contain whatever the virus happens to be doing within your country. And then you can break that down even smaller to where, there are towns, counties, where mayors and governors are closing down different parts of the state and the country. So you have this faction of people over here that are going ballistic about what's that about. And isn't it interesting that it's all coming up in a presidential election year? I don't understand that connection at all, other than, as far as you want to let your imagination go. Do I believe that somebody, some country, some faction manifested this virus and spread it throughout the world in order to, what's the word? The one world order, that there are people trying to get that established. Remember, Henry Kissinger talked about one world order. He wanted one world government, and then there were a fair amount of prominent politicians and wealthy people that were backing that whole thing. And then, even on a smaller scale, although a big scale, you have, George Soros and his whole agenda to change the political scheme of things through paying people to do negative things that alters the course of politics in the country. So I don't know. There are people that are willing to go down that rabbit hole, right? And they seem to enjoy that. Who's been disciplined for that? The media, I guess, has been called out by various people for propagating panic. Do whatever with that you want, but they've been kind of doing that for quite a long time, and I think the media has pretty much lost their credibility anyway. I'm drinking ice water from Starbucks in one of their little cups, and periodically when I'm shopping, I'll grab a ice water and walk around with it or something like that. So anyway, that's what I'm drinking now. Nothing in particular, but it's refreshing. The other side of the coin is that, the virus is real, and it started, they seem to think, through animals over in China, and that got transmitted to humans, and from there it just sort of swept like a wildfire throughout the country. I guess it started in Wuhan, and then it went through the country, and then it went through all of Asia, and spread over into Europe. And I don't think we have very many cases over here. I think I read this morning that Colorado has 4 cases of people that are infected. Good golly, that just seems like such a low number. I mean, I hope they all recover, and they recover very well, but just the plain old flu or colds, when that season comes around, the numbers are in the thousands and thousands. Sometimes I don't know anybody who doesn't have the cold or doesn't have the flu or whatever the disease happens to be at that particular time of the year. You go to the gym and everybody's hacking. So there are the people that are of the belief that this is a legitimate virus that came about through the means I just discussed, and has become global, and the various countries, and there's a lot of countries, huge countries, that are working diligently to eradicate the virus before it gets any worse. Viruses are viruses. They spread by all the normal means that we all know already. And the governments of the different worlds, different countries, are basically just saying, you have to go back to common sense and remember what we know about viruses and how they spread. And if we can isolate the number of people exposed or exposing themselves to others, it's going to be for the betterment that it'll get over sooner. There's a point in time where, as I listened to the different task forces of brilliant people working to resolve the issue, that it'll spike out. It'll hit a peak, and then from there it sort of goes down. You're on the other side, and we're talking about recovery then. Wuhan, as you read, and again, this is just legit stuff. I mean, there's no reason to disbelieve it. Wuhan now, which was the epicenter, no longer has any cases. They're not having anybody else report that they have the virus. The amount of people that may have died there or were infected over there has diminished, and they're on the backside of that bell curve. So it does get better. I mean, everything's going to be all right. It does get to the other side. The whole world is not going to die out. The whole world is not going to get the virus. So I think it's Australia that is saying they just came up with a cure for this particular strain of virus. And yesterday was the first day that the new vaccine was actually used on humans as opposed to, mice and rats in the lab. And it appears that if they're successful with the human, remedy for the virus, then that will get spread around the world, and again, we'll be on the backside of that curve a lot quicker. Remarkable that they can actually come up with a cure for something within a matter of weeks, when there's so many other diseases out there that they've been working on for eons and eons. So here's a thought I have, and I touched on this on a blog a couple days ago. Nobody commented back, but I want to bring it back up in this podcast. And I believe in the movie, the documentary, The Matrix. And I believe that we are all programmed from an early childhood, mom's third trimester to age 7. And we are basically walking around just with those belief systems that were instilled in us and hardwired in our neurons, and we're not even using our creative side, which is, what do they say, 5 to 1%. It just varies, but maybe people aren't even using their creative side for more than 1 or 2% of the day. But when you start thinking about panic buying and the panic that seems to be occurring, I guess I can only speak for the United States and what I'm seeing with my own eyes going out to a grocery store or something for whatever. I mean, it's like they're programmed. They're so fearful of the worst that can happen. They just follow whatever they're being told to do. Somebody somewhere came up with the idea that toilet paper is the answer, and so everybody started panic buying toilet paper. And this morning I went to 2 little stores just to grab a couple incidental things I needed, and they both had toilet paper, and they said, you want a package of 4 in a packet of toilet paper? And I said, yeah, sure. How much? They said, nah, just take it. So there was a point in time several days ago where everybody and their brother bought every roll of toilet paper probably in the world out of panic, out of fear, out of being programmed. And this is where it comes into how far down the rabbit hole are you willing to go? How far are you willing to go to not be using your conscious mind? There are people, as I read the internet, there are people where, when I read the internet, are scared to death of being alone. What do they call that? I tried looking it up before, but where you're being told to self-isolate. I don't know. I think there's a better word or words for that. But, the governments are basically saying to people, the politicians, the governments, are saying to people that you need to not go out of your house. And if you're in this bracket, or this bracket, for sure you're not supposed to. And everybody needs to, at least for the next 15 days, remain self-quarantined. Right? And then it goes on with breakdown of... but people are having a hard time with that. People are really having a hard time with that. Now, there's the other side of the coin where there's people that are just having all kinds of fun with it. For myself, I guess, I'm looking at a stack of books, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got 10 books here that, they're kind of stuff I like to read. Neuroscience, psychology, clinical stuff. But it doesn't matter. It's like, God, I can't believe I've got so much time where I can get caught up on some of these books that I've been wanting to get through. I am so lucky, right? And for me, it's like an opportunity to do some of the things that I've been thinking about doing for a while, in particular reading through some of these various books that I wanted to do research in. The other thing is that the podcasts, I've been pretty busy, and I had to cut back on some of my podcasts and YouTubes because I just had so much going on. Thank goodness I can now settle down a little bit and get back into a routine of, providing some consultation, education, whatever it happens to be, about, some neuroscience subjects that may be beneficial to you guys. I'm not sure. Maybe some clinical stuff that I know that I always talk about, that could be useful to somebody out there. I'm not sure. So the other thing, this is, I meditate. How do I say this? Meditation is probably more important than medication. And the medical benefits to meditating are astronomical. So I meditate, 3 times a day. Morning, sometime during the day, and usually later in the evening or something. And they may be for a 15-minute thing. They may be for an hour. They may be for a half hour. It just varies based on what kind of meditation I'm doing and for what purposes. Right now, I've been wanting to really work and study and research the pineal gland that causes us to have greater insight into our lives and the direction that we're going in. So I've been doing a little extra meditation with different techniques to work on getting to my pineal gland. And there's very specific ways that you can do that to access it. So I'm finding that to be like a reward. I'm anxious when I'm done with this podcast and get it all put out there and whatnot, to do some meditation yet. I don't even know what time is it, 12:09. So probably within the next hour or so, I'll get some meditation done, and more specifically about the pineal gland, and thank goodness I have the time and the luxury now to do that. I don't have to go out anywhere. Everything's shut down. There's no groups being met. There's no places that are open. The limit that we all have is that they're giving us some access to a grocery store here or there that might have some incidentals if we need it. But other than that, there's no place to go. I guess you can go to the gas station and get some gas for your truck or something. But I see the fishermen are going crazy. They're all saying it's not closed. And, they're just out there fishing every day because they're not working. A lot of places just have shut down. So if you've been employed, you're not employed. I'm understanding that we all may be receiving $1,000 to kind of help assist with, the disadvantage of not having income. Although I think most people that have been asked to not work for a while are being paid for that time off kind of leave. So yesterday I even talked about that. What do you do in the middle of being down the rabbit hole and you're scared and, you're using old limiting beliefs and trying to see what's going to happen in the future based on that, which is totally ignorant. And, I had come up with one of the tools that certainly is very helpful and would be beneficial is, start meditating. Start doing yoga at home. Things of that nature that are going to inspire your thought process, enlighten you, and lead you down a better road than being self-programmed by whoever and whatever currently that's causing you to have such fear and concern about your well-being. I don't think we're in that kind of situation. I'm not trying to make light of anything. There's tragic things happening with people, and there's people that are dying, but without a virus, there's people that are dying every single day. So we need to look at maybe some things that we can do with our time right now. I don't want to really leave anywhere like my home. I just am perfectly content right here. I've got so much work to do that I'm anxious to have this extra few weeks to get caught up with stuff, and I hope other people do the same thing as well. The second part I touched on yesterday, which I do want to just do again today, is that, how we acquire disease is through the environment and what we upregulate gene-wise based on our personalities, how we think, act, and feel. And if you're so stubborn to not be open to what's going on in the world other than through a narrow vision of how you think and feel, right? If you think negative, you're gonna feel negative. If you feel negative, it's going to cause you to think negative. It ends up being just a loop where you can't get out of it. And what that's doing is affecting your personality, and in turn, that's upregulating disease. I'm not sure we need to do that. There's enough harmful things going on with this virus where we don't need to upregulate additional disease into our life. The people that may see this as an opportunity to enhance their well-being and enlightenment, are down-regulating any disease genes that are in their body and up-regulating healthy genes that are strengthening their immune system. It's all just common sense stuff. Just all common sense stuff. There's people that are trying to capitalize on it, both on the internet through YouTube and podcasts and various things. And you're smart enough to see who's out there raising their voice the loudest to be heard with their particular techniques and reasoning behind the pandemic. I think it's PAN. So anyhow, that's kind of some thoughts for today. I went to the grocery store, actually, Safeway, and they don't have a lot of stuff. Vegetables are gone, and water, and papered products, and obvious stuff, hand sanitizers and all that. I mean, they're getting all that stuff. I mean, I see the trucks backing up even today, so, they're doing a good job with getting all that stuff replaced. And it still allows you to go and grab a couple things you might need to get. So, I wouldn't get too overly analytic about the negative aspects of what's going on or could be going on or may go on. I think you have to, as Dr. Joe says, I think you need to stay present. You need to stay present with what's happening at this very minute, 12:17, in your day. And focus on that. We can't go back and start looking at the past and then start projecting that into the future. That's a dead-end street. That's living in the matrix. That's going down the rabbit hole deeper and deeper and deeper. As they said, do you want to take the red pill and get out of the matrix, or do you want to take the blue pill and stay in the matrix? And everything remains the same. You're still living in a world of chaos being controlled, by governments and people and whatnot. And that seems to be okay for people. As I mentioned yesterday, here's the people that take the blue pill, right? The people who have a disease, and they're usually terminal diseases or long-term, debilitating diseases, and they want to take the blue pill, quote unquote, and stay in the matrix. They want to stay in the matrix. That's such a hot spot for me, because my whole life since 68, has been trying to treat people, guide people, counsel people, coach people, whatever the word is you want to use. And it's frustrating when a documentary like The Matrix comes out and it's just right there in your face. There's people that are living their life in the matrix, down the rabbit hole. I want to be sick. I want to be terminally ill. I want to have pain. I want to have suffering. I want to be controlled. I don't want to use my conscious brain, even though it's only 1 or 3% of each day, but they don't want that. That's horrifying to me. That's horrifying to me. And I suppose I lose some people that way, They may be friends. They may be just people that listen to me from time to time or read my stuff. And they might think that's too harsh. But you don't need to feel that threatened, that it's better staying in the ballpark that you already know. Does that make sense? You guys follow me on that? Sometimes the field is always greener on the other side. For some people, they'd rather stay in the field where they know what every day is going to be. That's living in the matrix, right? They know tomorrow when I get up, I'm going to feel bad. They know tonight when I go to bed, I'm probably not going to sleep very well. I'm going to have pain and suffering. But they'd rather stay in that ballpark where they know what to expect. That's staying in the matrix. That's living down the rabbit hole. That's not taking the red pill and getting out of that and becoming conscious of being conscious. That's using your own creative mind to prune apart and take apart those old synapses and neuron clusters in your brain that have kept you in that state of despair. Feel bad, think bad, feel bad, kind of cycle. So, anyway, there are, and I will kind of end with this as I'm going to start doing this probably more often on a regular basis. There are people like me, that you can call, you can text, you can get a hold of me in a multitude of ways. My podcasts go to every imaginable outlet in the world. They're heard around the world, right? Easy to find me. My YouTube videos are the same. My blogs are the same. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and blah, 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 blah. So there's no excuse if you're trying to find me. I can be found. I can easily be found. And I'm happy to listen and point out just science. That's all I do, is I'm just pointing out science. Here, this is what science says about what you just said to me. Take that information and ingest it, digest it, and come up with a different response than what you're doing right now. Do you want to attract and upregulate that disease into your body, or would you like to go on with the rest of your life and be creative and design a future that is inspiring and exciting and a positive thing for you. So anyway, there's me, and there's hundreds of other people on the internet, from prominent, well-known people to people that have gone out and educated themselves and done the research, and they can provide very good information to you. They're everywhere. Doesn't have to be me. It can be any one of a multitude of thoroughly educated professionals that can do it. The only thing that, and this is the caveat, you guys, I'm not big into psychology. My whole life has been psychology, clinical psychology. And I just believe that profession wants to rake you through the mud and have you experience all the harsh feelings that you were exposed to in the trauma when you were younger. And I'm saying the person who has a neuroscience background and psychology is the one you're looking for, because they're going to present information on how you can change, how you can become another person, another personality, through science and not through psychology. So, be kind of careful, be selective, pick and choose so that it's best for you and your well-being. So anyway, get a hold of me if you have any comments, good or bad. I understand. Not everybody's going to agree with everything I say. I am grateful for everybody that listens. I ask that you subscribe to my podcasts. What is it? It's John Zager Thoughts and Travels or something like that is the main thing, and then every show has got a different title to it, I guess. Share it so that other people get to hear it. That gives me more exposure. I don't make any money, okay, you guys? I don't make any money at my podcasts or my YouTubes because I don't, and my blogs, because I don't have that many people following me. Okay? I just don't. I don't. The girls, and this is probably not a positive thing to say, but there are people that present their podcasts that may not be informative in a healing sense, but are presented in such a manner that attract attention, and their numbers go skyrocketing, and they're making, $1,000, $5,000 a month. For doing what, I'm not quite sure, but they're out there. I'm just wanting to present neuroscience, clinical information about healing, wellness, happiness, joy, designing a new life for yourself that might be a little better for you. And people will listen. I mean, I do have a way where I can kind of get an idea of the people that are actually listening but are not subscribed. All that I would ask is just hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, hit the follow button. It doesn't mean you have to go back and listen all the time, but it sure does help me. And I'm a long, long, long way from making any money at this kind of thing. But I am, what's the word I used to use? Self. I don't work for anybody. I work for myself. So the only money or income source I have is money that I get myself through doing stuff like this. wonder what that word was I used. I can't remember. But anyway, so if you can, do that. If you really want to be generous, pour some money into my PayPal account, johnzager@gmail.com. That's my email. Anyway, God bless everybody and take care of one another out there, and I look forward to talking to you all again real soon. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye.